It's been a big week for Luke Shaw. Jose Mourinho criticised him publicly before the Everton game, said he questioned his training, his ambition, his focus, his drive, his commitment. And he said he was further behind Ashley Young and Matteo Darmian for that left-back spot. And neither of them are even a left-back.
Oh yeah, something tells me I'll make something good.
And of course, this is not the first time Luke Shaw has been criticised by Mourinho, nor is Mourinho the first manager. You know, Roy Hodgson, when he was England boss, he criticised Luke Shaw, mainly for his fitness issues. The same goes for Nigel Adkins when he was Southampton manager, and Mauricio Pochettino as well, and Louis van Gaal as well as Manchester United manager, famously called him fat before a pre-season tour. So Mourinho wasn't the first manager to publicly criticise Luke Shaw, and there's been lots of angry Manchester United fans around this week saying whether or not Mourinho was right to criticise Shaw in public. And I want to explain why I think he was. You know, the first point that has to be made here is that Shaw isn't the only player at Manchester United this year that has been publicly criticised by Mourinho. The likes of Anthony Martial, Henrik Mkhitaryan, Chris Smalling. There's been plenty of United players who are being on the wrong end of criticism. And no United fan will argue that the performances and the attitudes of players need to be upped at Manchester United. You saw the Everton game last night. I think Eric Bailly was the only one who came out with stripes. Everybody else was just pretty poor. And the second and main point with this Mourinho and Shaw situation is that Mourinho has tried different tactics and different managerial methods across the season in terms of a softer approach and a tougher approach. And none of them have really worked up until now. But what has happened between Luke Shaw and Jose Mourinho at Manchester United? You know, all of this isn't because Mourinho has a personal vendetta against Shaw. You know, back in August, Shaw said we've had a little joke about it, the concept of why he didn't join Chelsea as a player. He's a cool manager. Why didn't you come? He wanted to know. I just felt I had more opportunity of first-team football at Manchester United, but now I'm with him. I'm really happy he's here. It hasn't been the best few years, but all of a sudden it feels really good, really positive. We feel we have that fear factor back where people are thinking this team is going to be hard to beat. I'm fit, I'm happy. I still feel I have a lot more to give. I just want to push on now. And unfortunately for Shaw, it was a stop-start season. A few niggling injury problems really stopped him from overcoming that injury, horror injury last year he suffered away at PSV. And that made it difficult for him to build momentum in the start of the season. And then came September, which was the first point where Mourinho criticised Shaw in public. Came after we lost 3-1 away to Watford at Vicarage Road, and this is what Mourinho had to say. That first Man City goal and this second goal against Watford, you can find an incredible similarity, which is Kolarov has the ball in a difficult situation in the corner, and my players, instead of going up to press, they decide to give space. He's talking about Mkhitaryan there. Now, and here for the second goal, Amrabat receives the ball, and our left-back is 25 metres from him instead of 5 metres. But even at 25 metres, you have to jump and go to press, but no, we wait. This is a tactical but also a mental attitude. It's something that doesn't become perfect in a couple of weeks. Now, Luke Shaw responded to these comments. He said, I'm a grown man, I can take what the manager says. But I'm also still young, so I can take on board what he says and improve. You have to listen to your coach and have a good attitude about it. I was disappointed with the result, but not with what the manager said. I take it on board and look to improve, and hopefully I will do that over the next few matches. Our main priority is defending. At Watford, maybe I push forward too much. You need to concentrate on the defending part first. As long as we are keeping clean sheets, the more chance we have of winning the game. Now, in this situation, I do think Mourinho was quite harsh with his criticism of Shaw. After a game in which there were lots of poor performances, he isolated Martial and he isolated Luke Shaw for mistakes that, yes, maybe they have made. But I thought, you know, Martial was fouled in the build-up to that goal, and Shaw wasn't that bad. So to single them out after that game was harsh. But Shaw's response was positive. It was mature. It was responsible. Accepting the coach's criticism and trying to move forward. That's what players have to do. Because a player under a certain manager, if a new one comes in, what was working previously might not work under the new manager. And that's clearly been the case with Shaw and Mourinho. There's been a clash of styles that hasn't suited Mourinho. Then we fast forward to November and Shaw was once again criticised. This was the slightly bigger one. This was the Swansea game. Away at Swansea, we ended up winning that match, but Mourinho was not happy with some of his players because they pulled out when they weren't 100% fit at late notice. He said, there's a difference between the brave who want to be there at any cost and the ones who, for a little pain, can make a difference. If I were to speak with the many great football people of this team, they will say many times they play without being 100% fit. For the team, you have to do anything. That is my way of seeing it. We have the players with problems. To compete, you have to go to the limit. It is cultural for some, and this is my culture. More than me, it is Man United. Luke Shaw told me this morning that he was not in the condition to play, so he had to build a defensive line. Now, if Shaw did tell Mourinho on the day of the game, then it would have been an issue. But given that it was away at Swansea, it couldn't have been on the day of the game, because all of that would have been prepared beforehand. So again, this was slightly strange criticism here, but I completely understand. That's what Mourinho has built his teams on, his warriors. People putting their bodies on the line every single game. That's what he wants to see from his whole team, especially his defenders, because they're going to be in the firing line a little bit more in terms of tackling and crunching tackles. And obviously for a player like Luke Shaw, after the injury he's had, that mental side of the game is going to take a little bit longer to come back. And maybe that's why he didn't want to play when he was 100% fit. Maybe you think it's justified. Maybe I think it's justified. But Mourinho didn't feel it was justified at that time. And he publicly criticised Shaw for the second time this season. Then December comes along. And as I said, Mourinho has, on certain occasions, taken a softer approach with Shaw. He said he needs to improve. That is normal. He is a kid. I'm not expecting a young player to be perfect. A young player makes mistakes. A young player has things to learn, has things to develop. He needs to do that. How many matches has he already played for me? A lot. He was injured playing not on the bench. I need him back. So as I said, Mourinho has on certain occasions this season certainly criticised Shaw, but on other occasions he has taken a softer approach, understanding the young side of the game. Shaw is still only 21, he's still learning as an individual player. So he has tried other methods, but clearly everything that he has tried, he feels hasn't done enough up until this point. So then in February, Mourinho was talking about Shaw again. He said he has to work and wait. This is when Shaw was out of the team and everybody was confused as to why Shaw wasn't playing. He said, against Watford, I wanted one defender on the bench, and the defender is someone who can play in more than one position. Talking about Watford at home here, not Watford away. Matteo Darmian can play left, right back and an emergency central defender. So for us, my choice was Darmian. The only thing I can say is Luke is working well. He doesn't have any problem and he is working well. He is fighting hard. There is no problem with him. He is fighting hard. So as you can see, he's now complimenting how Shaw is working in training. So it looks like we're coming towards a positive outcome. And then the criticism came out this week. You know, Mourinho criticised the way, I cannot compare the way he trains, the way he commits, the focus, the ambition, saying that Ashley Young and Matteo Darmian were both far ahead of Luke Shaw in terms of that left-back position. And then the next day, Shaw responded, not with public comments, but he went to Mourinho. He saw him, he sat down in the office in Carrington, and he talked with Mourinho, confronted the issue head on. Lo and behold, the next day, he was recalled to the matchday squad. He came off the bench against Everton when we were 1-0 down and we needed a goal. And he put in a very positive performance. Some of his crosses were overhit, yes, but he was trying to get the ball into the box. He was positive going forward. We saw an improved performance from Luke Shaw. And for me, Ashley Williams robbed Luke Shaw what could have been an equaliser and a fairy tale end to a very tough week for Luke Shaw, and it could have done wonders for his morale. But I think that performance would have done wonders for him anyway. Something that might not help him. Or will it? I don't know. Let me know what you think. But Mourinho's comments on Shaw's performance. Now, Mourinho did compliment Shaw's performance overall. He said he was a positive, he improved Manchester United, but he basically said that Shaw played with his body and he played with my footballing brain. He said he was in front of me and I was making every decision for him. He has to change his football brain. We need his fantastic physical and technical qualities, but he cannot play with my brain. He must accelerate the process. 21 is old enough to have a better understanding. He has a future here, but Manchester United cannot wait. Now, what do you think about these comments here? For me, all the things that have been said in the past, you've had Nigel Atkins, Pochettino, Hodgson, Van Gaal, all criticising Luke Shaw's fitness. It doesn't look like Mourinho has an issue with Shaw's fitness. He's overcome the issue of last year with the leg break. It looks like Mourinho's got an issue with how Shaw plays football and his defensive side of his game. And that's what he wants to see an improvement in. And I think we saw a very improved performance against Everton. And I now hope I don't see how Mourinho can now drop him back out of the team. Obviously he didn't start, so technically he's not dropping him, but I'd like to see him put in that starting 11, because Antonio Valencia, without him against Everton, Man United had no attacking thrust from the fullback positions. And I suppose a real question will be, is Jose Mourinho comfortable with having the likes of Antonio Valencia and Luke Shaw playing in the same team together because they are both attack-minded fullbacks? Because typically he probably wants to have one of them hold back, so you've always got 3 defenders back in case you get hit on the counter-attack. So maybe that's why Luke Shaw hasn't fit his style so much at the moment. Maybe that's why Luke Shaw was brought on against Everton. Had Antonio Valencia been on the pitch, maybe he wouldn't have been brought on. You know, it has been a horrible, horrible 18 months for Luke Shaw. But, you know, he's now fully back in action, and Mourinho wants to see the same Luke Shaw, the same quality from Luke Shaw that we saw at the start of last year before Shaw's injury. And the public criticism, the softer approach, it hasn't worked up until this point. Clearly, because Luke Shaw is still not our first choice left back. Well, we've seen something this week. We've seen a response from Shaw, a positive, mature response from a 21-year-old who's had a very tough couple of years. You know, from what is clear for me after these comments from Mourinho after the Everton game, is that he does see a future for Shaw at Manchester United. He just wants to see an improvement from his players, an improvement from Shaw, and a maturity from Shaw to get better. And I hope that can happen now. But Shaw's response this week has filled me with hope that it will be positive for him in the future at Manchester United. What I saw from his performance against Everton was a player who had accepted the criticism from Mourinho and hadn't taken it in the wrong way. You know, and criticism can go one of 2 ways. That's why it doesn't always work with Mourinho. His tough approach can break players or make players. It's made Mkhitaryan. It certainly helped Martial refine his form. I don't know what's going on with Chris Smalling, but Luke Shaw looks, in that 30-minute cameo or whatever it was, it looked like we saw a response. That fills me with hope. But what do you think about this Shaw criticism? Do you think Mourinho is right, or do you think it's a wrong thing to do with a player so young, and after the 18 months he's had, does he need a softer approach? How do we get Luke Shaw back to his best? Let me know what you think in the comments below. As always, drop a like on the video and subscribe to United People's TV if you are new. And we'll see you soon. Take it easy.